so long is like alchemy.
Are jumping right into this thing. Clay, Westbrook, the premier matchup in this game. Look at Westbrook shove Clay off. These are just the little bitch-ass nuances of Russell Westbrook and his personality. Zaza gets torched backdoor, switched out on Paul George. I know you can't expect him to guard Paul George, but I'm just not quite sure I would have went with him in this matchup. You see him turn over the ball here, and he hurt us on both ends early on. I understand the concepts to keep Adams off the offensive glass. There he is on the offensive glass. Paul George hits the 7-0 start for the Thunder. Now, throughout this video, I want to highlight Clay's endurance. Corey Brewer is a dog of a defender. He's very long, and he's just very scrappy, and he was making Clay work. But watch Clay. He's hounded by Brewer. He picks up Westbrook. Draymond does well to pick him up, and they switch, creating the turnover. But early on, you could tell Brewer's one assignment in this game was to contain Klay Thompson. KD carried the load early on. You see us down 0-7, and KD, look at it. That's the all-star look at the scoreboard like, all right, I got us, fellas. So OKC decides to trap KD, and look at the nice pass for Clay. And I think Zaza needs to start grunting on all his dunks. I think that would give him more elevation. And here's the fool's gold 3 from Russ. And he was spectacular on this night, make no mistake, but there's always a cost for the amount of usage that is Russell Westbrook, right? What does it cost the other player's rhythm? Clay working the footwork and splashing early on. And I anticipated a tough night. And you see Draymond sell out on Melo, and that's the story with Melo. At his age now, everybody knows he's really a three-point shooter, and you can fully sell out on him. Here's Corey Brewer being Corey Brewer, but the bigger story is that's the second foul on Clay. With just about 5 minutes played in the game, he has to hit the bench. Here's a look at what Melo used to do, and you can see him barely finish here, going to work on Draymond, but there's just not enough of that anymore. And he doesn't get the opportunity to find that rhythm. KD out in transition, in and out. He wanted the whistle, threw it up, got it anyway. And he was absolutely spectacular early on in this game. And here's what they do. Look at them go under the screen. Quinn got out late, but they're daring Brewer to shoot that 3 in place of Roberson. It's really the same issue. Brewer, I think, can shoot it better. But will he? More KD off the pick and roll, and they absolutely abused Melo whenever they got him on the switch. He's just a liability on that end. The swing out, and you know they're going to light it up when Nick Young's in the game. Guys' eyes get bigger, and it's just a green light when they see him step on the floor, just keeping it a buck. JaVale, he had several momentum plays. He wasn't all that great, but the plays he did make, there were momentum swings. You see the two-handed putback there, but Adams, they went right to work when JaVale got in the game. So that is in part why Zaza started. He just wasn't that effective, but you saw Adams, big boy JaVale on the block several times. Jordan Bell, this was a pinpoint, very crisp pass here in the Draymond roll, just flicks it up. And so JaVale got the 4 points back he gave up to Adams, and you know, it just allows Golden State to have a little more offensive flow and options when JaVale's on the floor rather than Zaza. And then it's more from Saggy, just completely blown by and gets Bell put on a poster. And Bell's you gotta talk your shit. I know you're a rookie, but that's on Nick Young, man. Air Abrinas, 2 hands. But look at JaVale battle here. It's not always about numbers. He picks up the second foul on Steven Adams, and it's about how much energy are you making your opponent expend, right? And the Warriors did very well at that all game, particularly on Adams. KD with Raymond Felton. Stop it, Billy Donovan. Rocking and rolling on his way to 17 first quarter points. The bench for OKC was a no-show. Pat Patterson there, and look at that closeout from Bell. The closeouts maybe have been the best I had seen all season. Now I'm going to freeze it here. This is what OKC does. You see George is going to jump 1 pass away. That's what they excel at. Clay, understanding this, passes 2 men away, but Draymond's got to show shot there. He doesn't show shot, and so they jump that passing lane. You got to show shot, Draymond, off the catch. He's complaining, but that's on you, boy. And Draymond's numbers were really awful if you looked at the box score, but that didn't tell the story of the effort he gave on the defensive end and just his emotional leadership. There he is coast to coast finding D West in the second quarter. As the offense stabilized with KD on the bench, Clay got going. And Clay's injury, out of all the Big Four's injuries, I think was the biggest blessing in disguise. His legs are so fresh. He just seems refreshed in every aspect of the game, and he's got a rhythm even with the brace on, and he went to work in this second quarter. Now, one of the things I had my eyes on was how Jordan Bell would defend their perimeter forwards, George and Melo. And you see George, he gets the step, but again, making him work, and he kind of takes himself out of the play there. But I thought he held his own very well on the perimeter against elite scoring forwards. Nick Young, for everything, all his lack of effort, he did some positive things. He made the shots he needed to make. Now listen to David West tell Corey Brewer not to shoot. Hell no! That's something OKC's going to have to figure out. If Donovan's going to play his former Florida player, you know, he's going to have to pull that three. And David West knows that he's already in his head and telling him, hell no, don't shoot that. It just adds to the mental problem for Corey Brewer on the perimeter. Here's Westbrook pushing, and you got to ride his body. You see how Quinn Cook is backpedaling? That's death. You can't backpedal on Westbrook down the court. He's going to get there every time. Jones in the game in the first half. Look at this monster screen he sets on Brewer, knocks him off. Clay finishes off the play. So Damian getting his first meaningful minutes really ever in a Warriors uniform. Melo 0 for 9 from downtown, and you see them just selling out on them because they know he doesn't really want to put it down at this point in his career. Nick Young, like I said, he hit the shots that he needed to make, right? Knocking down that three. And then Westbrook's problem is he tries to match three balls. That's, you say, why does he shoot so many, I've called them Tourette's from the three-point line? You've noticed he always tries to answer a made three with a three. Then take a look at Damian Jones with this shot block. He jumps so late, and it's in part because he loads up. If you notice, he tries to leap to the sky on every jump, and he's going to have to kill that habit. But his physical attributes are off the charts. That astonished me that he was able to recover and block that shot cleanly. Now here he is on Steven Adams, and to be fair, Draymond doubles down, but you see him, he's not as easily movable in the post as we saw JaVale, and then the defense is on a string. They get out in transition. And Draymond gets himself to the line. And how far has Barbosa fallen, y'all? It's sad to see. Why is dude's nostrils in such disagreement, though? Damn. I love that game of zones, though. I highly recommend that coming out for the playoffs. KD off the screen. And I had mentioned this before. They picked on Melo. Take a look at Clay's defense here on Westbrook. Now, Westbrook's always going to get his numbers, but in an isolated situation, how well can you defend Westbrook? And Clay can do it as good as anybody here. And then look at KD put the clamps on Paul George, who struggled all night, switching the hips, nowhere to go. And then he lets Paul George hear about it as this possession ends. Look at him. Talking a little trash. These two go way back from the U.S. teams. Here's the pick and roll. Draymond looks like he has a new lob target. Damian Jones should provide the same vertical spacing that JaVale does, and then a different dynamic defensively. KD, that ain't right. And again, look who he's abusing. Here he is one more time, and all that Hennessy's catching up on you, Melo. Almost blows his knee out there. My God, that would have been devastating if he would have taken Melo's knee literally. Listen to Clay at halftime. This was interesting.
Tonight, you're pretty much taking OKC out of their offense.
Yeah, they're very one-on-one centers, so we just load up, make up the other guys beat us in the big three, and just trust each other behind you.
Is he not essentially saying they're pretty easy to defend? And you see Brewer, who he had a talking at halftime. They're like, Corey, you have to shoot the three. And you see him knock that one down after the vote of confidence. But Billy Donovan, I am not a fan of him. I'm sure he's a great recruiter, but NBA coach, I'm not so sure. Quinn Cook picked his spots very well. There was the three ball. And then Adams. And, you know, one thing, Oklahoma City out-rebounded us by, I believe, like 18, but it didn't feel like that because I feel like the effort even after the rebounds and the way they stayed engaged after an offensive rebound, it just didn't feel like we got so out-rebounded. There's Melo trying to get going, and we all know he's aging. He doesn't take care of himself like some of these other stars do, but the situation isn't helping. Let's be honest here. In this play right here, I was like, my God, look at Clay just putting Brewer through the blender, handoff, pass, cut, and and Brewer, he's just a little overactive. You see Zaza get completely turned around off that high pick and roll, and that was the last we would see of him on this night as Westbrook made a strong push here in the third quarter to get OKC back in things. More of a head full of steam. You got to ride his body and hope for help at the rim. But it's a very difficult situation, especially once he gets a rhythm. KD struggled in this second half. I believe he was just 2 of 9 from the three-point line in the second half, and he just settled too much for perimeter shots. If I had one knock against Clay in this game, I think it maybe be the time off. He just didn't know where he was out on the floor. He had his foot on the three-point line, I think, on 3 jumpers, costing us 3 points. Euro step, and now that's a goaltend, but I love the way JaVale defended that, challenging late. JaVale's shown much more patience rather than trying to jump at Westbrook as soon as he heads towards him. There's the turnover. KD roofs it. And OKC made a run, but every time they made a run, we stayed engaged and answered outlet pass. JaVale finishes. And so JaVale, much like Draymond, the box score doesn't tell the story of his full impact. I thought he made a lot of good plays. Quinn Cook, 2 threes, very timely threes, I might add. I think part of KD's struggle in the second half was he got a little bit caught up in trying to match Westbrook. Westbrook was real hot, and KD kind of, because that play right there, you have to dump that back to Bell, who's ready for the mid-range jumper, I might add. But you see Westbrook, when he's going and he's pulling that, you know, there's really not much you can do. You have to yield something. And I think KD got caught up a little bit in that one-on-one matchup. There he is off the screen, bang, on his way to 44 points. Let's take a look at Bell's turn on Melo. And you see how he has happy feet? You see how his feet are never stagnant? That's the key in a good defender. When you hide your movement within your movement, and if you're moving, you don't have to start moving. So Bell understands that, staying with Melo, and there's another lazy three-point attempt from KD as OKC's rallying. And Westbrook, the three-point shooting is well documented, but after he has 3 or 4 layups, 3 or 4 mid-range jumpers, then that three, it'll start to fall. OKC with the lead. I'll tell you what, though, with Bell and Damian Jones and Draymond all on the floor, along with KD, that's quite the rim protection and switchability. Early on in the fourth, I got nervous. Draymond made some risky passes that I just did not like. Steven Adams chipped up his hip, and I think they did a great job on Adams. I know, he put up his normal numbers, but I thought they didn't let him set a physical tone. They were more physical with Adams than he was with us. And that was a key aspect in this game. Swaggy, and he doesn't make the play, but I want to point out that I liked his mindset. Look at him kind of scowling here, and I just liked that he had a more serious tone to his game. With KD resting, Draymond pumps the three, but make note, Patterson was flying at him. I know he had the big three-point shooting against Phoenix the other night, but if you have a guy flying at you, Draymond, you probably want to take it to the rim. Abrinas knocks down the three to tie the game. What kind of celebration was that? Is that the Abrinas celebration with his mutton chops? There's another turnover from Draymond, and I think with Adams out of the game, he was hunting for backdoor cuts. David West, just solid, man. He only made 2 or 3 plays, but the times that he made them, they were much needed. The others in this game were right there, right when we needed them. More Westbrook coast to coast, but I brought up at the cost of what? The cost of his other teammates being in rhythm when he needed them, right? There were so many possessions, as you see Nick Young knock that down, where no one else touched the ball but Westbrook. When it was time for someone else to make a shot, would they? Jordan Bell, that's there now. I have to admit, I did not think that would be there this season for him. So that's a credit to his work ethic, and I think that's going to allow him to stay on the floor longer in playoff games. He calls the screen away and then pulls up and hits this three. KD had 34 points, and he was huge in the first half, but like I said, second half, credit the bench, credit the other guys. And Nick, look at him try to take the charge. The ninja swipe from David West, Quinn, tic-tac-toe, Damian Jones, 8 points in 13 minutes. And playing down the stretch. Here's another bad shot attempt from KD, and he might have been tired. I mean, he was putting in a lot of effort on the defensive end, but look at Damian Jones in the high pick and roll, and it tells me something that Westbrook didn't completely attack him, right? Guys can sense his presence in the paint, so who do we go to? 2-point game, KD wrong. It's the Duke product, Quinn Cook floater in the lane. More Damian on defense. Here's another high pick and roll. Watch him show, get back, and then help KD on Paul George, and it results in a turnover. And I want to credit Steven Adams because I was worried right here. I thought he might just hammer KD. I thought that might end ugly, and he safely wraps him up. And look at Corey Brewer sitting on Clay's left side, the shooter, and he just goes all the way right in another huge basket from Damian Jones, man. You want to talk about out of nowhere? Now look at him switched out on Westbrook, challenged the shot perfectly. Nice box out from Clay to secure the ball as well. So here we go. What are we going to get? Draymond throws it up, and I just absolutely love this. I've been whining to see this kid all season long, so your boy was up off the couch screaming to put this thing away, or so we thought. KD with just a bad turnover, and I had to check myself and realize, I know I brought this up in the first take, we were just minus our ball handlers. And then look at Draymond with this high-risk pass. One, it shows a ton of confidence in Quinn to make that pass, but Draymond, it's like you got to live and die with it. He's fearless, and he's going to continue to make fearless plays, even sometimes if they're too risky. So we run Westbrook off the three. We're not giving up the three. Steve Kerr needs to take a timeout right here. He needs to take a timeout. I'm not sure what he was doing, and why does the ball end up in our worst free throw shooter's hands when he could have taken a timeout and put free throw shooters in there. So I kind of question Kerr's coaching right there, but we get away with it as Draymond knocks down the free throws. We go into Oklahoma City with a statement win heading towards the playoffs. I'm out, y'all.